Hey guys, John here. So, not too long ago, on my drive home from work, I found a video on YouTube from Alchemy Neuro, and he was basically asking the question, if you're a beginner just getting into sound design or producing, like, what do you exactly do at that point? And it's a very, very interesting video. I highly recommend you check it out. There's some really good advice in there. And I kind of wanted to add some additional thoughts on that because I think that to myself, I'm like, okay, if someone's just coming into this, in for our time right now, 2024, what would you do, right? You have this passion for music, you have this passion for sound design, and you want to get into this, but you kind of look a little bit and you see all these DAWs out there, and you're not sure, okay, is this the one for me? Does this even do this? And there's so little that you know that you don't know what you don't know. And that's kind of difficult, right? Because we could even ask ourselves, should we go to school for this? And if you know so little, that's probably in a way the worst question you can ask yourself because, like I said, you know so little, so like you really don't know what you don't know. And if you jump into something like a really expensive program, which I unfortunately did, you kind of will look back on that later and say, maybe there was an alternate route I could have taken. And I do think that there is. I don't think that you need some fancy degree or some crazy schooling to get you where you want to be. Although that can help, absolutely. You know, some people's minds are more geared to something structured. And even if it is, there's also very great courses out there that I'm sure there's people that have done that on the DAW of your choice, on the plugin of your choice, on the genre of music of your choice. So I guess the first thing I would probably tell someone if they're like, John, what do I do? I want to get into this right now. I want to jump in. I have maybe a decent amount of money because that is a very important factor, right? Some of us have zero money to put down, but we still want to invest and kind of invest our time, I should say, into learning this skill. And you can still do that with virtually almost no money except for the hardware of your computer and, you know, a mouse, headphones, and things like that. But also, if you have some extra cash laying around and you want to throw out some things, sure, you can do that as well. But be careful if you do have some extra cash around. It's very easy to just get lost in I need this, I need this, I need this, and I need this, thinking that you're going to get better. But at the end of the day, you're going to realize, wow, I'm out all this money and I still don't really know. So you kind of need a targeted thing. So with that being said, I would first kind of think what kind of music that you want to create. Maybe you're into rock, maybe you're into EDM, maybe you're into hip hop, whatever it is. Find the kind of stuff that you're interested in doing because you need to follow that interest and say, I like these artists. I kind of want to make music similar to that, or this is what inspires me, and kind of just study from that on a certain level. And this is what I always think is kind of a cool concept, right? Some people say, I can't hear things very well. I don't know how to mix this or anything like that. And I say, well, okay, are you a fan of these certain artists and genres? Do you like how those sound? They're like, yeah, I listen to it all the time. And I said, okay, if you listen to this stuff all the time, that's an amazing thing because your ear is almost subconsciously trained to how this sounds, right? You know your favorite songs, you know what they sound like. The only thing is you just now need to know, how do I get there? Because you already have that imprint of a sound. There's a very interesting concept where it says, if you want to make something, at first you need to know what you want, and then you need to plan out your route. If you're driving somewhere and you have a certain destination, you need to find, you need your destination first, and then you can figure out how you want to get there. Do you want to take the highway? Do you want to take side streets? Kind of things like that. So know where you want to go. So that's a very important thing. If you want to say, I want to make EDM, this genre of EDM, this is what I want to do. Maybe you're like, I want to do techno or house or whatever it is. Listen to those artists and maybe kind of soak that in for a while and then say, okay, what do these artists use, right? That can be helpful. Maybe this artist uses Ableton. Maybe this artist that you like has videos or courses that you can follow and you can learn from a first person perspective. Because there are some artists out there who will offer their time for a certain amount of, maybe like lessons, maybe for an hour you pay a certain amount of money. And at first we're like, oh, but I don't want to pay that to this artist or something. Sometimes that's the best investment you can make. We look at schooling and how much thousands of dollars does that cost? How much do books cost and things like that? Whereas if you spend it one-on-one targeted time for like, I don't know what the prices are, so I can't really say exactly. But spending that time one-on-one with someone that you look up to or who you like the sound of their music, and they can show you how they do things like that, that's extremely beneficial. So that's kind of one concept there. The second is you don't really need all those fancy plugins out there. There's a lot of stuff to pick from. There's really probably a plugin for anything that you can buy, that you can use. And sure, it's cool, but do you actually need it in this certain moment? Because like I said, you don't know what you don't know. So you might look at this plugin and say, oh, this one's really cool, but you don't really know what it's supposed to do or how it's supposed to work. So if you go out and buy it, you might realize a little bit later, oh, I don't even really need this because the DAW that I ended up choosing already has that. So sometimes you might hear the argument, should I use stock plugins? Should I use third-party plugins? That kind of thing. Now, that's a really interesting question. And I would say probably play around with the stock plugins of your DAWs, because all the DAWs out there are pretty good. They have really good starting software. And when I say starting, I mean like starting with this DAW that you have, not like this is my first guitar, this is my first plugin, not like that, because they're all actually very good. And then once you kind of understand what their limitations are, or maybe you want them to do something that they don't do, then you can kind of look out and say, okay, what plugin out there that does what I need it to do that I want to buy? Or there might even be a free version of that out there as well. Synthesizers, software, and gear can get expensive, but there's also a lot of free options. Surge XT is a great synthesizer that you can just download for free and start making all kinds of crazy sounds, has lots of options and lots of different types of synthesis. So it's one of those synthesizers that will grow with you the more you invest time into it, and it's not really going to be too limiting for the most part. So that's something to think about as well. You might be saying, I might want to get into modular. I see these guys with all these modules and wires. VCV Rack might be a thing. Cardinal might be a thing for you, which are both free. So again, that's something to think about. So I guess to wrap this kind of concept up, and we might visit this topic a little bit later on, but if you're just starting, one of the main things you need is obviously your computer, a good pair of headphones or speakers, a place to work at, a mouse, things like that, like the basic necessities, right? But find the DAW that you like and kind of look at some videos out there. Look at videos on YouTube. There's so many people within their DAWs and they show you different workflows. You know, maybe Ableton's the choice for you, maybe FL's the choice for you, or Studio One, or anyone out there. You know, there's lots of different DAWs that might vibe more with you than you would think. Also, don't just use the DAW that your favorite artists use, because you might realize, like, yes, they can do great things with that DAW, but I really don't like it too much. I like this one a little bit better. So follow your own instincts in that sense. And then once you find one, kind of stick with it for a while and learn it. It's going to be frustrating. It's going to be annoying. You can say, how do I do this? My first stuff sounds like garbage. And that's good, because everybody's first songs and first sessions will sound bad. That's just, I'm not going to sugarcoat that. It will sound bad. You're going to look at that later on if you decide to keep going, and you say that was awful. But that's a good thing, because if you can realize how awful it sounded compared to the stuff you're doing now, then you're going to realize, okay, I have gotten better. I have progressed. I have learned new things. So don't give up. That's probably the number one thing. Just keep going. It's going to be frustrating. You're going to not like this. There's going to be nights where you close your computer, close your laptop, shut it down, whatever, and say, God, I'm frustrated. I don't know if I want to do this. Step away from the computer, give yourself a break, and then come back to it fresh, and then just keep going. And if you keep going, you're just only going to get better and better and better. And then at some point, you're going to start picking things out. Oh, I can make that. Oh, I can do that. Oh, I like this song. You'll actually listen to your own songs recreationally, which is a cool point to come to. And the last thing, there's a lot to learn if you're completely brand new to it. What is an EQ? What is a compressor? What's the differences of these compressors? What is a linear phase EQ? What do all these things mean? And it is a lot of stuff to learn through, or to go through. So I would suggest to learn the basics of these tools. What do EQs do? What do compressors do? And then maybe, how do I route reverbs? Which is a nice reverb that I like? Or how do I use delays? How do I use send effects? Things like that. Just kind of like the basic core things. Look at some of those up and kind of gather those in your knowledge. And also, there's live streams of people just producing out there that you can maybe kind of watch through and see how they do things. So that's something to think about. But yeah, if you're starting in 2024, don't give up. Find the stuff that you like, and for the love of God, you don't need all of those plugins out there. For the most part, your stock DAW will be able to handle 99% of all those things. And you'll know when the time comes of what you actually need. So that's kind of a shorter version of this kind of topic. Like I said, I might revisit this a little bit later on as more, kind of thoughts come into the head. But I guess that's a good starting point if you're kind of just looking at this and saying, do I want to do this? Maybe, maybe not. But I will tell you, it is a lot of fun, and there's nothing like making your own music. There's nothing like dialing up that synthesizer and making a patch that you want to hear, and then you actually hear it in your ears. It's such a cool feeling. So there is that really nice, happy incentive to keep going, and you learn from people, and you learn cool new tricks along the way. So yeah, it's a cool journey. Stick with it, and yeah. If you have any advice as well, if you're way far along in your journey, you want to help some of the new people out coming into this, what would you tell them so we can all help grow each other together? So yeah, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.